Hello, everyone. Today is a very special day since I'm once again joined with the Arm Historian 4 minutes late from when we planned, but we got it all figured out. We are going to be ranking the most shocking moments in arm wrestling history. Not really. It's mostly King of the Table and East vs. West history, but that's all we gave a shit about anyways. Say hello to the people, Mr. Arm Historian.
Hello, people. Very good to be here. I'm looking forward to this one, although you might have to fill me in a little bit on some of these.
I am ready to fill in.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Because I assume if the Arm Historian doesn't know, everybody at home doesn't know.
Yeah.
Anyways, and a few of these are like more niche moments, but I really went for the most shocking, not just popular ones. I could just put, fucking Devon and Hermes, and I'll just throw in Devon and Levan and then make that the list. But I'm getting niche ones that people really didn't see coming just because they weren't popular. I'll throw them all in there. You ready to start?
I'm ready. So ready.
So the first one is Valero Chobutaru flash pinning Lars out of the straps. Everybody said this bodybuilder has no clue what the fuck he's doing in arm wrestling. Lars is going to destroy this guy. And in the first round, pure diesel side pressure fully contains Lars' top roll and just flash pins him. Where are we ranking this one? Because a bodybuilder coming over to arm wrestling and not getting this shit kicked in is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I think we can rank this one pretty high, although probably because I don't know how many people were really anticipating this match or like looking forward to seeing this match.
Yeah.
So maybe based on that alone, it shouldn't be like at the top tiers. But yeah, impressive for sure. I'm thinking about probably a B for me, something like that. Yeah, maybe a C. But like you said, like people coming from other disciplines into arm wrestling and doing well on their very first outing is always super impressive and hype, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, when I was watching this one, this was probably the most shock. Like, I don't remember the full card, but I remember being really surprised when this happened. And I wasn't as into arm wrestling as I am now at the time, but I was still just like, all I heard was everybody saying, oh, Lars is going to beat this guy. Lars is going to beat this guy. So I was like, so Lars is going to beat this guy. And all of a sudden, flash pinned out of the straps. It's not just that he beat him. He dominated him, at least in the first round. So I'm going to put this, I'll throw it in B tier. I think this one's pretty good, honestly. I have a little bit of people. Someone said Valero is a power lifter. But who the fuck knew that? None of us, all right? That's why it was shocking, all right? that story was not told to the rest of us. But someone asked if I found a way to contact Alizhan. I did not. One is the interview with Hermes. Didn't end up happening, but it will happen, hopefully. Pasta Man is a little bit wishy-washy when it comes to responding, but he'll schedule something, he'll cancel, he'll schedule, he'll cancel. He'll say maybe today, oh, I couldn't do it, I'm sorry. But it'll happen. I promise it'll happen. Might even be after the Levan match. Who knows? But it will happen. All right. Yeah. This one, we even have a cameo of me in the background. We have Leonidas top rolling Schoolboy, who every poll is like 90-10. Of course, another one of these bodybuilder versus arm wrestler situations. Yeah. I know you were around for this one and you knew the story. How are you feeling?
Honestly, this one ranks pretty high for me personally. Just because, I don't know, I think at that time, if I remember correctly, Leonidas wasn't really as established maybe as a good arm wrestler than he is now, like after facing John and stuff and doing well against him, I think, in my opinion. And especially the Schoolboy match itself, like people had no idea if Leonidas would actually do well. And just based on the following Schoolboy has and the amount of dedicated fans that claim Schoolboy is like top tier arm wrestler, I think this one should rank pretty high in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, okay, I'm going to knock this one down a peg because before the match, I remember when I'd first seen it, I actually thought Leonidas would win. But then everyone else convinced me he wouldn't. But I was like, oh, motherfucker, Leonidas going to win. I don't care what anybody says. And you could even see in the match, I like cheer once he takes his risk because I was pretty damn sure that like I thought people were overrating Schoolboy a little bit and underrating Leonidas. So because of that, like I personally will put this like maybe C because this will be one of the only times I'm going to say I kind of saw it coming, but I kind of saw this one coming. A few of these are like ones I was also shocked with, but a couple of them were like, I was not one of the Kool-Aid drinkers. This is one where I was like, you know what? Leonidas might just win.
I had no clue, man, honestly.
With these influencer matches, it's rare it delivers. This was 3-2. it's rare you get like a good influencer match.
Very
so,
true.
like, it's rare that they're actually, because, like, well, actually, you told me that off camera. I can't say that, but normally when you match up two influencers who aren't really like established arm wrestlers, it's rarely a close match. But this time it was like really good. So I'll bump it up to B just for that, because I don't think a lot of people saw this one coming. I remember even the skinny Asian guy from the Dennis and Devon match. I was talking to him, and he was like, the only match on this card I'm certain about is this one. I know Schoolboy's going to win. And I bet him $20 Leonidas would win a round. So that's why I was cheering so damn hard. But yeah. So I was on the Leonidas train, but it is pretty shocking. So I'll put it up pretty high.
We'll keep it in low B for now.
Yeah, okay. Now we have Philip Larson dragging Brad Grundy's entire body across the table. He didn't just beat him. He literally pulled his body across the table, Silayev and Zaurpazulayev style. Now, part of why this is so important, I had these two on for an interview. And if you read the comments, there was not a single dude who said anything nice about Philip Larson the whole way through. Everyone was just like, this guy's delusional. What a fucking joke. Like, I can't. And he paid like $2,000 to Brad Grundy. He said, I'll bet you $2,000 I can beat you.
Really?
I'll bet you $2,000. If I beat you, I'll get 500 back. Like, he gave him crazy odds and was like, I'll do it in your fucking backyard.
Damn.
So, and he pulled up and he actually delivered when everyone doubted him. How do you feel about this one? Did you know about this one?
Honestly, I didn't. I expected Brad to do better. But then again, just looking at the two guys, like, what was the weight difference between the two guys, you think?
Brad is about 260 and Philip's about 375.
Brad is 260. Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
more
Brad's
than I thought. More than that. The thing is, Brad was like 270 a month before Bacho, and I watched him nearly die on his way down to 231.
Jesus, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I wasn't super surprised, although my estimation of Brad was at that point relatively high. Brad was one of these people that surprised me before, so I was kind of expecting him to do the same and just like, okay, a heavier guy, he'll probably dominate him. But yeah, like you said, didn't quite happen. I think probably this one a little less surprising to me than the Schoolboy one, I would say, personally. So yeah, I'd probably put this at a C or something, I think, my first instinct. What are you thinking? Probably higher?
I was honestly thinking like A, dude, because like I a little bit drank the Kool-Aid on this only because I had talked to Philip Larson so much. But to the people who haven't, I've never seen a guy get counted out to that degree and then not beat him, but he literally was able to back pressure Brad's elbow off the pad. I mean, like, there was a huge strength gap. But I'll also give like some credit to, like, Brad was coming off his like back injury and we kind of didn't know where he was. So like, I'll put it in C just because like there was a world that could have happened. And it mainly happened, I think, because Brad wasn't in good shape. If Brad was in a better shape, maybe it would have been closer. So
yeah,
not that shocking, you know?
Yeah. I can see it. I think C is a decent place for it, although I would defer to you more because, like I said, I wasn't as aware in the lead up of like people's thoughts on it and stuff.
All right. We're getting to the less niche ones. I saved I got the more niche ones off the rip. Now we have Michael Todd against Lars. Everyone's saying this is going to be a dogfight. Lars in a press, Mike in a King's move. What if Mike pressed? What if Lars King's move? This is going to be all over the fucking place. And then he just flash pinned him 4 times, and it was like a complete shit show for Lars.
Yeah.
Where are we ranking this one?
This one wasn't super surprising for me. I think, wasn't this Lars like first or second match after his real comeback?
Match. He had Matteo Marengi 4-1. And then nearly died against Valero, but 4-3, won. And then after that, it was up against Mike, which I have to say, in retrospect, anybody who is that close with Valera, there's no way he'll do anything to Mike. But I did not think that at the time. I thought Mike was just King's move, King's move, King's move, and Lars has a press. I was like, maybe. But I was totally wrong on this one.
Yeah, I to be honest, I didn't really see it going in Lars's direction at any point of the match. Even though I think Lars is a very versatile puller, and at the time I remember being pretty high on him just because I liked his pulling style and just the way he acted on the table. So even though I think I estimated Lars's ability pretty high. I still had Michael as like the clear favorite in my mind. So not that surprising to me. Probably a low C, like a D somewhere. Not super
I'll
shocking.
put it in D because maybe I didn't see this coming, but I probably should have. That's kind of why I'll put it in D. Because I mean, he was very close with Valero. It's not too crazy to guess that. Someone just said it was obvious Mike would win. But man, it's obvious after it happens. A little bit. You had to a little bit go to bed at night thinking, what if Lars got in his press, or what if Lars was a little quicker? But yeah, it makes sense. Okay, now we got again another Schoolboy disappointment. We got Schoolboy against Khaled. Schoolboy's going to kill this guy. He doesn't even know how to arm wrestle. He's going to do 2 matches in one night, Schoolboy and then Ryan Bowen. Now, I am going to loop in with this, right? Not just that Khaled beat Schoolboy, but that he lost to Ryan Bowen afterwards, okay? Okay? So if we're talking the whole night, I don't think that could have gone any crazier a manner, right?
He did this on the right hand, right? Both matches were right-handed matches?
I believe he had a match set against Schoolboy, and Ryan Bowen was like talking some shit about, oh, Khaled doesn't have any chance. And Khaled was like, you want some too? And then he did, and I guess they were like, well, Ryan's going to be here anyways. Why not? So
that does ring a bell.
Fucking threw Ryan on the card. And then he did the most unexpected way of this going, which most people's prediction was he's going to get flashed 4 times by Schoolboy, and then him and Ryan will have a good match. What ended up happening is him and Schoolboy dogfight, and then he got like kind of mad. Well, all the rounds were long against Ryan, but I think Ryan was just kind of like playing with his food and he was, I think, over engineering it a bit. Oh my God, I forgot to add Gennady and Sagov. We'll rank Gennady and Sagov at the end. I literally forgot to add that to the pictures.
Yeah, sounds good. I remember, I believe Schoolboy and Khaled faced before, not an official match, but faced before on Larry's channel, right? Not that long before the actual match.
Someone just said that exact thing, so I guess that did happen.
Yeah, there you go. He did face him, and even there, it was very clear that it would be a tough match for Schoolboy. Just looking at it in a vacuum, I would have Schoolboy as the very clear favorite. But with that extra context, I remember thinking on the day, this might actually be tough for Schoolboy. Khaled really strong hand. And even in the pre-pulls, you could tell that his technique was non-existent, but just by sheer power, he was giving Schoolboy a really hard time. Probably not super surprising. But then the Ryan match, I didn't expect at all. I think people sometimes, and I'm guilty of the same thing, I think people sometimes underestimate how tiring a super match can be, and how much energy you actually lose, and how big the fallout can be after a super match, going down in energy and stuff. So I just think, Khaled pulling Ryan and Schoolboy in the same event was just a stupid thing to begin with, in my opinion.
I mean, it wouldn't have been stupid if you can win the first match quick.
Yeah, that's true.
If the first match, or if it's different arms, maybe, but if the first match is a dogfight, that second match is never going to go well. Even if it's even if you do one left and the other one right, I think we're about to see this with Alex Kredecha. I think him and Devon might be close, but he's going to get his shit kicked in by Morozov. I think he's just going to be too tired.
He's doing the Morozov match first, or
he's doing the Devon match first, which you can kind of go 2 ways with that. Devon matches are really exhausting, so maybe you want to get it out of the way first because it's more important. But if you lose to Devon, it's exhausting. That's the problem. If he gets destroyed, it'll be exhausting. The only way it's not bad for him is if he tramples Devon, then mentally can stay in fight or flight to not get any adrenaline dump, and then an hour and a half later faces Morozov. I don't know, man. And they're not going to do Devon at the start of the night. So what I heard, I think from Dexter, I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to say this, but I will. I'm pretty sure it's only going to be, 5 or 6 matches in between, left hand and then right hand.
All right.
That's not a lot of time to recover, and they're not world title matches. They're going to be, a lot of them are going to be 3 rounds. I don't just the overall body, the CNS exhaustion, not just your arm. I don't really see that going well for him. But anyway, back to this match, I would say this specific result and the overall night, I would put maybe a C.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like we kind of knew that was going to be a dogfight based on the practice polls,
Mm-hmm.
and if that was going to be a dogfight, Khaled and Ryan going badly is not shocking. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a good position to put it at.
All right. This next one, we've got 80-20 in the polls. Angarbayev is going to destroy this guy named Oleg Petrenko we've never heard of. And then Petrenko literally does not feel him.
So wait, this is Petrenko versus who? Sorry.
Petrenko and Angarbayev. So the stage, Angarbayev or Petrenko was literally holding John, or John was holding Petrenko saying push, 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 push.
Yeah.
And then Angarbayev beat John 3-1. Like not convincing, but decently well. So at the time, 80-20, like every poll was 80-20 or more in Angarbayev's favor. And he did not just lose. Oleg Petrenko, like it was like he wasn't even there, like completely destroyed Angarbayev. Where does this one rank?
Oleg Petrenko is one of these guys. He looks so unassuming in some ways. Like he's a big guy and he looks strong.
I don't think we know the same Oleg Petrenko, young man. That guy is not unassuming.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Angarbayev, maybe?
I'm just okay. I can see saying that about Angarbayev's body and about Petrenko's face, if you know what I mean. Like Oleg Petrenko looks like the nicest kid you could meet.
If
like
you cut him off here, I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
yeah.
So judging by that, I would think like, maybe Oleg Petrenko, like probably good arm wrestler, pretty good. But at the time, I wasn't as fully up on like his pedigree. And Petrenko has been pulling for quite a while and had some really good tutors and like examples in his life. So I think he trained under Andrei Pushkar too, right?
Yeah, he was Andrei Pushkar's student.
Yeah. So I think it was pretty surprising to me at the time. Now, of course, in hindsight, not as surprising. Petrenko is just a powerhouse. But yeah, at the time, I think I would rank this pretty high just because I remember indeed Kirigali's stock back then was really high, right? Like you mentioned after the John fight and stuff.
He only lost to Todd Hutchings before this.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think now we're kind of realizing Kirigali is nowhere near as good as we thought. Not just after the Matt loss, but even kind of before that. I think there were starting to be some cracks. And now the Matt loss has like cemented him as like he's probably not even like, I know this sounds crazy. He might not even be top 5 at 105. Because I could or not top 10 at 105. Because I could probably think of 10 dudes who could beat him.
Really?
So, like, I mean, it wouldn't be that crazy to put him out of the top 10 just because there's so many guys in that class who are all so good. But I'll put this one maybe B tier.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's also an interesting topic, right? How good is Angarbayev still? Obviously a really good puller, but how much is his previous injury playing some part in his current state? Difficult to say.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it's a combination of I don't think Angarbayev is as good as people thought he was, and Matt Mask is better than people thought he was, and it was a little bit the injury. All that created like the perfect storm for like Matt to win easy, and for us to all be like, "Holy shit, how did Matt win?"
Yeah, might be the case. It's a very difficult thing for me to underestimate Angarbayev, just also because he's been pulling so much and he's given some super heavyweights throughout his career a really hard time. Even Levan. So yeah, but I get you. I hear you for sure.
All right, the next one is maybe a little bit more niche, but I think you'll kind of know what's going on. We got Egle stonewalling Sarah Bachman, center of the table, and fucking looking at her and like letting out like a manly grunt, and then just fucking pinning her on a hook. Now, for context, this was a shutout on arm bet for Egle to win one, and nobody was buying Egle.
That's crazy.
After the fact, we would think, why would anyone have ever believed in Sarah Bachman? This was like about as mismatch as a mismatch gets. Where does this one rank?
I think this is one of those matches where the fact that Sarah Bachman has such a big following compared to Egle, and just more fans in the West and stuff, I think kind of skewed people's opinion on Egle. Egle had been out of the sport for quite a while by this point, right? I think she participated in a bunch of WAFs and then
No,
like
she
worlds.
competed in 2021. It was
Hmm.
against Gabby. She got flash pin 3 times on the right arm, one on the left, and then flash pin three different times. So
And this match was like 2023, something like that.
2023 November 10th.
Okay,
So
yeah.
like it was like a good bit of inactivity on Egle. In
Mm.
hindsight, I'm shocked that that was the betting line, just given the fact that like they both got no. I remember it was because Sarah was actually decently close with Gabby, right-handed.
Right.
Like she kind of
Right. I
stopped her a
remember
bit,
that. Yeah. In King
and
of the
then
Table, right?
and
I think.
Egle just got flash pin 3 times. So like because of that, obviously you'd have to start Sarah as the favorite in the head-to-head.
Yeah.
But
You're
it
right.
ended up being a total mismatch, which doesn't really make sense on paper. How could that have been a mismatch in the same technique? So I think Egle just improved like crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny because to me, Egle's most recent match is almost more surprising, the outcome of that match. Just because I was so hyped on I forgot
Jocelyn.
the name. Yeah, Jocelyn. Just because I was so hyped for her for some
Honestly,
reason.
that one didn't shock me that bad. It
Uh,
honestly, like that match kind of felt like Auden and Artem Taranenko. It was just
yeah,
like
I can see that.
extreme amounts of elbow conditioning against like hunger to win,
Yeah.
and getting fucked over in the setup a little bit too, which is just like Auden and Artem. So actually, that's a great analogy. I like that one, but that one didn't totally shock me. It was just like years. It's a years in the sport thing, you know.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, I'll put this one probably like I'll put it maybe C tier because I think also
Yeah.
like their inactivity adds some allure to it that
Mhm.
makes it not that crazy. Okay, now we got John, who was beating Alexey Voevoda that we all drank Kool-Aid on, who's like, holy shit, this guy's lips are crazy. Devon, as always, whenever an old guy comes back, he's like, I want him next. And then he just gets flatlined by John.
This one pretty crazy to me still, even though at this point I think it was pretty clear that John's level, especially after he had enough matches to really come back to the sport, was still pretty high. This one still surprised me. Just because I don't know, it's like you're talking about two legends here, and you'd expect there to still be more of a fight in both of them, or like them to be closer than they actually were. So yeah, quite surprising for me. What are your thoughts?
I might put this one in A tier, and honestly, because like I remember, like John never loses a poll. That's the truth of it. John was losing the polls this time. Even the people were like, man, I don't know about John this time. Versus like if you put John in like, I don't know, Oleg Petrenko. Oleg Petrenko would beat John right now, but the poll will tell you that John is not even close to this guy.
It's just
John
the nature of John, right?
Just because I think everyone picks John because they like John, you know?
Yep.
But even the polls were like, this Alexey Voevoda guy, a little bit too big, a little bit too strong. And I think this is one of these moments that sort of shows like arm wrestling has progressed. If you could hang with the guys today, you could beat the guys of yesterday.
Yeah,
I think that's a big storyline that got proven in this match.
Yeah, that's true, and that holds true for so many matches.
I'm putting this one an A, honestly. I think this is the most shocking out of all the ones we've ranked so far.
I agree. Yeah,
this one's got to be up there.
A seems right.
We have Devon, the endurance king, going up against some Georgian guy, and the Georgian guy wins on fucking heart and side pressure. Where are we putting this stuff?
Honestly, I think this was Devon was in like one of the best years in his career here, and if I remember correctly, this match was in August or something.
This was in March, and it was just after he beat Prudnik. It was his first super heavyweight match.
Really?
This is just before he had the best year ever. This was right, like it started off sour, and then he went undefeated.
Because he had some Arm Wars matches before that, I think, right? Before his Gennady match, I believe.
Well, so he had him in Prudnik in November, and then after that, in February, he had him in Sandris, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, this was like his okay, fine, I'll be a super heavyweight again.
Yeah,
and then he's going to go up first against Gennady. And at the time, Gennady was coming off of beating, I think, Faridos Monley, and probably someone else in there. There's got to be someone else in there. I know Faridos Monley, And he was coming off a loss to Hermes, 4-2 against Hermes. Hermes kind of got gassed out, but Hermes won pretty comfortably. So like Gennady was like a pretty top tier super heavyweight, but not unbeatable. Like middle of the pack kind of super heavyweight is what we thought at the time.
Yeah, that's I'm trying to put myself back in the mindset that I had then, and I think it didn't surprise me that much, to be honest. Just because I've always estimated Gennady pretty highly. He's one of those guys, like you said, that like puts it all on the table and just goes for it unconditionally 100%. So I could see him giving Devon issues, but him actually winning was quite surprising. But yeah, probably for me it's a C or something, not super high. Are you totally different on this one?
For me, I'm going to bump it up to B only because I give credit to the manner of the victory. It's not just that he won. People had this idea. You have to run over Devon or you lose to him. Gennady proved that isn't true. He did not run over Devon. He was getting run over. That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to think Devon flash pinned a guy in the same super match he lost to him. I mean, like that's crazy to think about. So the manner in which Gennady won is very important to me. So I'll bump this up to like a middle B tier. I think it's like the manner.
Yeah, I agree. It's also like it has become kind of Gennady shtick, right? For him to just not give up and just keep going for it no matter what and no matter in which position. So yeah, in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think that's a good place.
Now we got Brad Grundy, the little cuddly doughboy, top rolling, 230 pounds of Hancock and forearm mat mask. And I can call him a doughboy because me and him are buddies. Where are we putting this one?
This one's like, I want to hear your opinion first on this one, Henry. Tell me what you
think. This one's going up in A tier. Mat mask, you could not sell a Brad Grundy to win a round on arm bet if your fucking life depended on it. Do you want to know who bought out Brad Grundy on arm bet? Brad Grundy. All right? That's the guy who bought it. Brad Grundy. He's the guy who bought the fucking block, okay? Nobody believed in him but him, right? His mom might have bought a little bit, but that was it, okay? Nobody thought Brad had anything. Yeah. And Brad even told me, he goes, I saw $400 left, and he goes, fuck it, and he bought himself. Something like that. I don't know how much he bought, but nobody believed in him at all. And he fucking showed up, and he won, and not just won. I would say he was not even close to losing.
Yeah,
so I'm putting this one in A tier, but I'll hear what you want to say.
No, I think I'm pretty close on that one. To what you're thinking here, just I don't know, just again the visual aspect of the match to me draws some comparison to Matt's most recent match, even where it's just Matt just looks more like an arm wrestler than Brad. No offense to Brad, but also like the experience, right? Because at that time, like Brad, were many people aware of Brad actually being a good arm wrestler at that point in time?
Brad was known as like a pretty good state level guy, but I think this was like it was going to be his first big opportunity. But like it was like, but Matt's on fire, man. You can't stop him right now. You know, it was that type of thing. But this kind of like this match was the last point where like Matt was like being shit talked. Then he kind of went on his little run where he was beating everybody. Which ended in Angarbayev. That was like his final win where we're like, holy shit, Matt is like gonna rule the 105 kilo class.
Yeah, he got Krasimir in there too, I think at a certain point.
Krasimir was before Grundy. And Krasi was another, like, maybe that even should have been on this tier list, because I remember people at the time, Matt, like, Krasi was at the end of Matt's losing streak where he was like losing to everybody. Like they just kept giving him 6-3 hook pullers, and it was.
I was very surprised by that match too. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, this one for me is A tier, but I'm willing to be convinced otherwise.
No, I think I'm, like I said, I think I'm very close on this one. I would probably put it below the John Brzenk one, but yeah, I'm very close on this one too. Like a low A probably, just because. It's Matt Mask and Brad Grundy. At that point, I hadn't heard that much about Brad yet.
Yeah, I mean, also people in chat are saying that, like, someone said Matt is so inconsistent that his losses don't surprise. That's also true. Like Matt's the guy who can give hell to Angarbayev and then get destroyed by Nugo in the same afternoon.
It is,
Like
which is
he
crazy.
can be all over the place. And we'll get to Nugo later because my opinion on Nugo might be kind of strong, but we'll get there. All right, we got Matt and Angarbayev. This one, like I am at least putting an 8 here because I did not like. If someone offered me even odds, I'd have bet 10 grand on Angarbayev. I was that confident. I was just like, there's no fucking way. And not only did he won dominantly, which is probably the only way he could have won, for being real. I don't think he was winning a dogfight against Angarbayev. He had to win quick.
I think that's also just a consequence of Matt pulling like Matt, right? If he doesn't win quickly, he probably doesn't win any match he's involved in, I think. I would even go so far as to maybe put this in S, because to me, maybe it's a little bit of recency bias coming into play here, but to me, that was super surprising. Yeah.
I mean, I remember before this match was announced, I had just an inkling that it was coming on. So I posted the match on my community tab. I said, what do you guys think? And literally the top comment was, does Matt get to use 2 arms? You know, like that was the level of disrespect they had. So honestly, I'll throw this one in S tier. I think that this one's pretty damn elite. Like,
I agree.
I really didn't see that one coming. And normally I'm the guy that's like acts like a smart ass, like, you know, well, I thought there was a chance. That's not me this time. I did not think there was a chance. So I'll put that one in S tier. All right. Now we got everybody saying this match is 50-50, and then Alizhan talks to Prudnik after he beat Dadikyan. And we didn't really know much about Alizhan at the time.
Yeah, man. I was surprised by this one too. I remember quite vividly being surprised while watching this match. Prudnik is one of the only people on this list that I've actually felt in real life on the table, like not in a competitive setting.
Yeah.
But just like I'm messing around on the table a bit, and like to me, probably all the elite guys feel the same, but like I couldn't do anything with him. He's like unmovable to me, obviously. It's probably very high. I don't want to put it as high because the match itself wasn't super exciting to me. But this one probably should deserve to be up pretty high, I think. Just because Prudnik was such an established name already.
I'm thinking maybe like the lowest A. Like
yeah, I can see that.
It's the same thing. It's not the result, but it was the manner. Like I don't think, and I think this was a lot of things. This was Alizhan was no longer at WAF, and I'm not saying he takes steroids, but he might. And then Prudnik said he is off the juice. So I think simultaneously their steroid differences came together to make the most like shocking turn of events possible, right?
It looked super dominant, yeah.
I mean, because like after this one, it was definitely a he would need both arms to beat me type of situation. So yeah, I would say a low A tier. This one, I'm putting an S tier, and I'm not even going to ask you, all right? Okay. But I think you agree with me. Morozov stopping Vitaly. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. That was pretty crazy.
I mean, I literally, like, this was one I considered. Now, I don't know if you remember my shaving the head bet if Gennady wins a round. I considered doing a parlay. I was like, if either of them win a round, if Morozov or Gennady win a round, I'll shave my head. And I would have had a double head shave that night because Morozov, the moment I saw this, I was like, this was my worst event ever. Like when it came to predictions, I literally was just like, I don't fucking know anything, dude. Like the moment this happened, I was like, what the fuck do I even know about arm wrestling anymore? Like, why would I ever even think to like bet or any of this shit? Like, what the fuck do I know? And I lost $1,000 on this. I had $1,000 on Vitaly 4-0. It was just like a normal, like I had already had the most shit night of betting ever, but I was like, but I'll get $800 here. Did not.
Nope.
So this one was, I would say probably the second most shocked I've ever been in an arm wrestling result. I think number one is coming up later, and we all know. But this is my second. I made the same face. I was just like, what on earth am I watching?
It was shocking for sure. I think what made it maybe a little less shocking to me personally was like Morozov is one of those guys who I think if he shows up juice to the gills and completely ready, healthy, I think he's genuinely in that solidified, even on the right hand, like easily or getting close to top 5, in my opinion.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think Morozov is one of those guys. If he shows up in like tip-top condition, has no aches or pains, and could time his cycle perfectly, I think he's like a force to be reckoned with for even the top guys. Remember, there was a time when people were talking about Morozov being the next Levan Slayer. Now, I don't know where that was exactly, like compared to this match in time, but that would maybe make it a little less shocking, but
Morozov
still.
Levan Slayer was in April of 2024. It was
Mhm.
right after Hermes and Levan. And I think Morozov was talked as a Levan Slayer only because of Hermes. Hermes made Morozov exciting because Hermes showed, okay, it's possible. Now let's throw this guy with even more arm and let's see how he does,
Yep.
So, but yeah, or Yago Rossi said it was 2023. I get my years mixed up, but I don't know. Whenever Hermes and Levan happened. But yeah, this one, like, honestly, I'll maybe bump it down to A only because Vitaly didn't have too many left-handed matches. Like, maybe I should have seen this coming, but like, this was pretty fucking shocking, man.
No, but I hear you. Yeah, on paper you would think Vitaly is the clear favorite for sure.
All right, we got Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall. Me and Neil Pickup made a bet the night before this in Atlantic City, and I gave him 99-1 odds. I said, I'll give you $100, you give me $1 if Brian loses. So he was betting on Eddie, whatever. I don't know. I said that wrong. But he was betting on Eddie. I watched this back. That was not a close match at all. He fouled out in the first round and then fouled out in the second round trying to get a restart. All things and then flash pinned him 4 times, or not flash pinned, but pinned him 4 times out of the straps holding on. All things considered, this was a complete mismatch, just like I said it would be, but we believed for a little bit.
Yeah. It's difficult for me to rank this just in general. Because both of the guys are like, I don't know. It's very difficult for me to rank this, and I remember going into the match, I didn't really have any idea on. I thought probably Brian will take this, but it's not like I was thinking like this is going to be a shoe-in for either of the guys, honestly, just because we're talking about people with very little arm wrestling experience, actual experience. So to me, it's very difficult to make any kind of prediction on these kinds of matches, which just leads me to not really expect anything going into the match. So probably this one is pretty low for me personally.
For me, like, okay, the way I thought of this match that just made it super simple was they practiced like a year before the match, or 8-10 months, whatever. And Brian was literally trying to not hurt Eddie Hall. He was so easy to beat. And then since then, Brian went like this at arm wrestling, and Eddie Hall trained for a couple weeks doing every now and again a little table session with Neil Pickup, So like, because of that, like on paper, it was like, well, of course the match isn't going to be close. But then you look at the match result, it kind of wasn't close. Like if Eddie won, it would have been more shocking, but he didn't win. He made it a little bit interesting.
Yeah, so that's true.
Maybe I'll put it like C tier only because it kind of went the way we thought it would. It kind of like it didn't happen,
That's true. I do remember a lot of people like after I think a couple of weeks before the event or like a couple of months when Neil was practicing with Eddie. I remember a lot of people saying like Eddie looks way more fluid on the table. He's moving better than Brian and stuff, which like gave me a little bit of like a feeling, maybe Eddie does have a chance here. So, but yeah, I definitely see Brian being the favorite for most people in this match and winning more. I think most people expected Brian to win more easily than he actually did. So I agree with you there.
I'll whack it in C tier, maybe.
Yeah.
You agree? Good. Okay. This one is, I really don't know how to rank. We got Alizhan and Hermes. Once again, it's another one of these. It's not about the match result, but it's how it happened. Talking to him, holding him. This is like a little bit for me. It should be low, but at the same time, I was quite surprised that like it was that dominant. But at the same time, it's like if Hermes can't top our Alizhan, Alizhan can talk to him. So it's like if it goes in a hook, it would be that easy.
Was this before or after the left-handed match between Hermes and Larratt? Do you know by chance?
Hermes and Larratt never had a left-handed match. What?
No, they don't know. That was on the right. Yeah, you're right. That was on the right. I don't know, man. This one indeed not super surprising to me, just because I can't really remember a time where Hermes' left super impressed me, and like Alizhan impresses me every time
Yeah.
he goes out on the table. So not super surprising, probably wasn't shocking or D to me. Just because,
I'll maybe put it in wasn't shocking. Now I made a
sure.
shocked face, but in retrospect, I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have been that surprised. This is one of the ones that got me some flack. People were like, "What's he even making that face for?" We all knew that was coming. I'm like, bro, come on, man.
You weren't that long into arm wrestling yet, I think, at that time, right?
I was like, let me think. I'd been watching for like 2 years,
Okay,
but
okay.
I wasn't like the research, like really get into everything the way I am now. Like these days, every match on the card, I will always have in-depth knowledge on both of the athletes.
Right,
Versus
right.
before, I was a little bit more of like I know about 70% of these matches. A couple guys I don't really know, whatever. Now it's like I could talk 20 minutes about every single match on the card, and I really know details about both. So this one where it's like I know a little bit about Alizhan, but I was like, man, Hermes fucking, he nearly beat Levan. This guy, no way, right?
Yep.
But I didn't think Alizhan would win just because it was left hand. But I didn't fully get how do I say? I didn't fully understand that this was something that could happen. To me, it felt quite shocking. But anyway,
all
right now we got Chance Shaw being fed gummy bears in the corner and holding and smiling Devon while he's like, rah, rah, rah. And he's just fucking losing his wrist, about to lose 3-1, but having fun while he does it. This match, I feel like we all just thought Devon was just going to do this to him, and that didn't happen. So
that's true. I very vividly remember watching this match with a couple of friends, and all three of us being very surprised.
Yeah.
At the outcome of the match, even though Devon still took it, and in the end, I think if you look back at the match, I don't think it was necessarily close or anything.
I mean, I don't believe Devon ever came close to losing the match, but Chance Shaw made it much more interesting than we thought he would.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. It's still it ranks up there pretty high for me, if I'm gonna be honest. Probably somewhere high A, even if I'm
high A.
Okay. Yeah. Just because Chance to me was okay, he's good, but like he lost to John Brzenk not too long before this match, right?
We're
talking like a couple of years.
You're talking shit on the GOAT.
Yeah.
Well, actually, really what you should be saying is Chance Shaw lost to Brian Bowen, not too far off from this.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah. Like what is it now? 5 years or something ago? Something like that.
And ironically, Chance Shaw had the least and most shocking match results back to back. He had him and Sagov at 115, where like I don't know why that ever got said.
Yeah,
but
then
true. Right after that, he gave some good hell to Devon. Like immediately after, which definitely was like, in my opinion, quite shocking. But just because, like, Chance Shaw against Sagov, like at the time, if you'd done a poll of Devon against Sagov, most people would have picked Devon, and Devon would have lost against Sagov when he faced Chance Shaw, and it wouldn't have been close.
Yeah, so, it could be.
I'll put it like mid A, I think, maybe like here.
Yeah, that's good. You're thinking like a high B probably, or low A for you, and then
probably high B, and we'll average out middle A. Okay,
yeah, sounds good.
So now we got the big ones. Okay, I think we're in the big 5 of the most shocking moments of the last little while. Hermes stopping Levan. Yeah, come on. I even got the exact picture from like the moment, the coolest moment, right? The one that's on all the fucking edits. All right. I think this has to be S tier, right?
Yeah, I agree. To me,
I didn't put it above Matt and Uncle.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. Yeah, it was an exciting moment. It's one of those moments that will stick with me for a long time, just because there was such low expectations on Hermes, and like me personally coming into the match, I just thought this is gonna be another like Levan versus Devon. It's gonna be a repeat. Hermes is gonna get injured, or he's just gonna lose in a couple of quick flash pins. And yeah, this is crazy. And I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing at the time.
I mean, I remember, like, it's one of those matches you remember where you were, right? Yep. And I remember where I was. Like, I was on vacation in Big Bear, which is like an area for like skiing and stuff in California. And I was with my mom, and we were like snowed in the cabin. We couldn't leave.
Okay.
And I was trying to explain to her, I'm like, Mom, Levan got stopped. And she's like, who the fuck is Levan? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, this is like the coolest thing ever. And and I was literally watching it with my mom. She had no clue who either was, but I was like, dude, you got to understand, like, this guy's never been stopped before. And he's getting a hell given to him right now. And even my mom was getting into it. Like, we were both cheering on Hermes. And I remember,
for sure.
I bet $5 whole on Hermes to win this match to win a round on arm bet. Just because I was like, you know what? I was like, oh, I'll believe in Hermes. Why not?
Did you get that paid out?
So technically, the one time they've ever done this, it was called a blowout stake, where they only had to win one of the 6 rounds. They've never done that before for obvious match fixing reasons, where like in theory, a guy can win 5-1 and it doesn't really matter. They can still win and they could throw around to pay an arm bet. And like, we've never had a match fixing scandal in arm wrestling, but are we going to act like there's 0 that goes on? I'm sure there's something somewhere.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, to think that there's 0, right? No one's ever been caught match fixing in arm wrestling, but that's not because there's no match fixing in arm wrestling. So if you open up that can of worms, that's kind of where it would start. So there's never been a blowout stake other than for a Levan match, where those last 2 rounds matter a fuck ton. Those last 2 rounds are like everything. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, but this one was one where I was like, I remember feeling like the most intense emotions I've ever felt watching an arm wrestling match, going from like not just being shocked, but also being willing to, how do I say, being shocked by the result, but also being invested in the result. I really cared about what happened, and I was shocked. There's moments that are shocking, but I don't give a shit. This was shocking, and we all gave a shit. So I think this needs to be number 1 on the S tier for sure.
Yeah, I agree for sure. It's in the right place now.
All right, Yoshinobu Kanai being a totally washed up bum going up against Todd Hutchings. There's no way he's stopping Todd. And then stopping him at the bottom and going, woo, woo, woo. You could hear it in the whole venue. I remember Alex Bakuradze was doing a translation for the interview or whatever, and he just heard the place explode. And this, I mean, Istanbul's a library. He heard the place explode, and he literally just heard, woo, woo, woo. And he came over, and he was like, what the fuck's going on? He saw a foul for Todd Hutchings. He was like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, dude, he stopped him. He stopped him. He stopped him. And we all couldn't believe what was going on. I did make the shocked face. That's the only, the one of 3 times it's come out. Devon and Levan, this, and then we had Morozov and the Latin. This is the only 3 times it's ever come out. And they're special occasions. This was one of them. I think this has to be a high A tier.
Yeah, I agree. Looking back at it now, it's like Yoshi, I had no hopes for him, whatever. I also didn't think, like, it didn't make sense to me that they would actually pair him up with Todd Hutchings for his first comeback match. But yeah, Yoshi must have known something. He must have known he was still good and still very strong.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dream style matchup, if we're being real too. Guy who only goes sideways and refuses to press or top roll against the what is it, a King's mover. So, you know, it was a good style matchup, and maybe that's part of why Yoshi took it. And I remember after he stopped him, Engen turns around and looks at the crowd. He goes, "You're all welcome." That's what he said. Because he was like, I was sitting right next to him, and he was like, man, I fucking told people if Yoshi keeps his pronator, this is going to be a dogfight. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right, Engen. You're right.
It's one of those matches, one of those rare instances where someone coming back after a long time, maybe from a point where the sport was at a lower general level as far as power and stuff goes, actually doing really well still. And that made it all the more shocking, right? Because we see plenty of examples of the same thing happening, like with Voevoda and stuff, and even Dennis, and they aren't as strong as they were back then. But the fact that Yoshi can still hang with like the top guy in that weight class, or one of the top guys at least.
At the time, I think he was the champ.
Maybe? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Might have been
Oleg Petrenko literally got his belt taken the same card. So yeah, never mind. But he was nearly the champ.
Yep. So the fact that he still did so well against Todd was very shocking to me. I would go as far as to put this at a low S or a high A even.
I'm putting it. I'll put it at the highest A.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Hermes, he just stopped Levan and nearly beat him. Devon got his fucking bicep torn in half by Levan. So obviously, this guy fucking Hermes is gonna murder Devon. Hermes just beat Pneumonia Jerry. I mean, there's no way. So I think this at least is like a A tier, but I'll maybe even flirt with it being an S tier because I remember it's rare a match has this many eyes on it and we get it this wrong.
Yeah, I think a high A is probably fair. I wouldn't fault you for putting it that low S. Just yeah, it's to me it was a crazy match. I thought Hermes probably, like you said, would win versus Devon, if not dominate Devon. But yeah, it just seems people still underestimate Devon's arm wrestling ability and the way he's able to dismantle some opponents. The guy has been arm wrestling for so long and at such a high level that I think he's felt nearly all kinds of styles in arm wrestling. So it makes sense to a degree that he would be able to figure Hermes out, but just the way he did it and at the timing he did it, like when Hermes was that high up in the sport, is very shocking to me.
I mean, for what it's worth, I think these two. I'll put it in. I can't move it there. Okay, I'll put it in here because I think these two actually played together. If you think about it, so Hermes stopping Levan, frankly, shouldn't have happened from a level perspective. That was like the world coming together, the stars aligning. Like I think Hermes was perfect style matchup for Levan at the time when he lacked that just a little bit more arm and the capability to press. Levan maybe wasn't in the best shape, and Hermes was like fucking peaked out and ready. And then Hermes and Devon was like the perfect storm to have things not go his way. Devon's training, getting ready, and Hermes just beat Jerry where he was only training his arm, so he kind of lacked a little bit of wrist. I think it was like the most perfect storm. They both like worked together to create a shocking moment, if you kind of think of it like that. But I definitely think this needs to be up there because I remember watching this. Like, I remember when he pulled Hermes off the pad and got like one foul win. I was like, oh man, you know, what a lucky guy Devon is. But then right after that, he proved, no, he actually earned it. He really was that good.
Yeah. And it's, I think that's a good point to make because I think a lot of these matches are like some of them are shocking in a vacuum, but a lot of them kind of depend on matches that came before it, right? And I think that's a perfect example there of like Hermes doing very well against Levan and then everyone expecting Hermes to just dominate Devon because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, good point there.
So this last one, yes, this is live, Jacob. So this last one, I personally have this in not shocked at all. I was not 1% surprised. I picked Nugo to win. I bet some quite a bit of money on Nugo. I was like, I had this 90-10 in my head before the match, but I will fairly rank this in everyone else's perception as well, even though, because I also had a little bit of inside info. Without my inside info, maybe I'd have been a little more shocked, but where did you have this one ranked? Like, who did you have picked before the match?
Oh, I had Mask. Yeah. I won't pretend like I had some crazy insights on Nugo or something, or like I saw it coming all along. No, I had Mask as the very clear favorite. I'm like we touched on a little bit before, like Mask is a very up and down puller. He's very volatile when it comes to like not only the way he acts on the table sometimes, but also his pulling ability or how strong he shows up. So I think given that's probably not quite as surprising as some of the other top S and A stuff on here, but still, I had Mask as a clear favorite.
I'm thinking the highest B is what I'm thinking. Because I also like the polls are really inaccurate when you get a guy like Matt Mask because people love Matt. That's the truth of it. If you put Matt and Vitaly on a poll, it might be 50-50 just because people don't even realize the level and they just fucking love them both, you know? But like this specifically, the only reason I was so certain is I'm not sure if Nugo is better than Matt, but Nugo will beat Matt forever because it's just such a bad style matchup. Nugo, very good at keeping his arm angle close, very good at maintaining his pronator, has a way more side pressure than Matt, and Matt needs to come so far down to be able to meet him. Like it's very similar to Alizhan, Kochak, and Nugo. It's just the wrong way to beat him. The way to beat Nugo is to be smaller and to control his pronator and roll him open after that. Or to just be shorter and then hook him. But conventional wisdom will tell you to never hook the shorter guy. But that's the way to beat Nugo. Nugo's not full of conventional wisdom. He's a weirdo. He's not normal. the way to beat him is someone like an Oleg Petrenko, who can top roll him and can meet his lever length more closely. Matt is like the worst way to just be so much longer and to try to run backwards. Because if you're both trying to go backwards, pronator on pronator, that doesn't work against Nugo. Nugo has never lost his wrist in a match before. So it's just like he's just going to slide backwards. And then you see what happens in this picture where Matt's like way open and far and Nugo's right here. So it's one of those things where, like, if you really analyzed it deeply, you probably pick Nugo. But if you just looked at their match results, you definitely picked Matt Mask.
Yeah. I think, like you said, there were some clues we could pick up on that it probably was going to go something like this. So yeah, that's a really good point. I think one of the things with Mask is if he doesn't have a stronger hand and wrist, what is he really left with at the end of the day, except for a explosive hit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely there were some clues I think we could have picked up on, but yeah, nevertheless, very surprising still.
Yeah, because the way I thought of the match was if Nugo ever got connected to his arm, he would win. And it would either be if Matt tried to like control his pronator and then roll out, I think it would I figured it would have ended up on a hook and then Nugo wins. If he tried to go straight backwards and they both have their pronator, I felt it would, Nugo would just Todd roll him. And I was like, if maybe all of that goes wrong, Nugo would maybe flop press. So Nugo had a lot of choices and Matt had one, which is a tough place to be when you have one move against a guy who's so strong and so versatile like Nugo. So like, because of that, I can't make it super shocking. I can only say it's shocking because of people's like lack of familiarity with Nugo, which is where like I'll admit I have a bit of an unfair advantage just because like I really did a Nugo deep dive like in picking him. But if someone didn't do that same deep dive, I'd be like, yeah, he just fucking killed Angarbayev and he's gonna lose to this little twitchy Georgian with a pot belly. There's no way. But it happened,
I would have expected Matt to maybe get a pin outside of straps at least. Something where he could just be faster than Nugo, overwhelm his wrist and just cup and fall down, just top roll completely out of straps. But wasn't the case. Nugo is so good, crazy.
Now we have the main event of the entire of me being shocked in arm wrestling. I cannot play nonchalant and put this anywhere other than S tier for myself personally. But where do you, and not like, I'm going to say, we're like, since the most shocking moments, not the most shocking matches, the most shocking moment, we're just going to talk about the first round stop because the rest of it played out like I expected, including Levan's press. But if we're just talking boom, right? Just the stop. For me, I think it's the most shocking moment in my arm wrestling career of watching. But where do you put it? I'm willing to move it around a bit.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate here a little bit just because I largely agree with you. I remember watching this again very vividly, and like everyone that I was watching it with was super shocked. I do think this was Levan coming back after a wrist injury, right? A pretty severe one.
Yeah.
So there was somewhere in the back of my mind, I remember talking with my friends about like, maybe Devon has a chance now with Levan having been out of it for a while and not being able to train as much, and maybe his wrist wasn't fully recovered. So I do remember some talk going on with Devon isn't completely without a chance. But then that first stop, like, still was super shocking just to see Levan being stopped in that way. So yeah, for me, probably I agree with S tier. I would probably move it a little lower. For myself, but I can definitely see people like having this at the top of their list because it was such an iconic moment, and I'm super jealous that you got to be there for that. Of course,
I mean, for me, the way I look at it, I don't think that match could have gone in a more enjoyable fashion for me. I wanted Levan to win 4-0 for my money, so Levan, but I got to experience Devon winning with Levan winning 4-0. Because in this moment, mentally, the match is over. Devon beat Levan. I got to feel what the room feels like when Devon beats Levan. And now I'm even more excited for Devon Levan 3 because I know the atmosphere of what it's like when it happens. Because in a way, we've already gotten to see it, The whole room for like 15 seconds, the match was over. Like, we're done here. So I'm kind of curious to see what like the atmosphere is like. I would say this is probably the loudest I've ever felt a crowd be. And I'll tell you, you could hear a rat piss on a cotton ball most of the time in Istanbul. Like that place is quiet. But this exact moment, I heard like the room light up in a way I've never felt any arm wrestling event have. So like, I mean, the only thing that I could compare to this is like Angarbayev and Matt was pretty crazy for sure. Because like the room was like, everyone's rooting for Matt and nobody believes in Matt. That's why the room, I think, was sort of like that. This is one where like, I think it was even better where like, I honestly think in that room, you probably had 75% of people think Devon would win. Like, I don't know if you ever saw this, but I was on like a VIP podcast with Engen before the event. And there was like 5 of us on there. I was the only person who picked Levan. So I think there was a lot of like, I think it was like 5 or 6. And they all picked Devon. Like everyone went Devon. I was the last one. And I was like, Levan, 6-0, just like last time, which for a little moment that did not age too well, right? But and I guess
funny
how
quickly, it's funny how quickly we sometimes forget, right, about people's sentiments actually going into the match. Because now that you mention it, I do pretty clearly remember a lot of polls having Devon not necessarily as the favorite, but pretty close. So
every poll I see, I remember it being 50-50. I remember it being like, I remember talking to Neil Pickup the night before. He said 55-45 to Levan. I think most people kind of like, I mean, there was a minority of people who I think kind of shared my sentiment, which is this is the same match it was before. Levan's going to win easily. And I also believe there was a minority of people who believed it was totally different. Like I remember Chris Drummond. Chris Drummond's a very smart guy. And he said, that Devon was going to win very easily. Like he said, this is a total mismatch. And of course, you know, people point and laugh afterwards, but I don't really blame him for making that call before the fact. Like there was a lot of great reason to feel like that. So, you know, it's easy to throw stones and point and laugh after the fact, but like during the lead up, you know, Levan's wrist isn't the best it's ever been. And Devon was clearly like in really, really super shape. I could have definitely seen how you could get yourself like with, I'm gonna be honest, a little bit of Kool-Aid. You have to be a little bit of a dreamer to be that confident. But like, I am not surprised that we all felt that sure. But at the same time, I think a unbiased analysis of the match had to have it being, you know, Levan winning center, right? Unbiased, like there wasn't that many people that thought that was happening in round 1. And I think that's why it was so special.
Yeah, that's true. It's Devon having that crazy good run up to it. And like if Devon was ever going to beat Levan, it would have been at that point, right? It would have been that point where Levan was injured and Devon was on this crazy run and doing so well against a lot of people. Like it would have been that point, but yeah.
I mean,
so maybe does that make it less shocking or?
I mean, after the match, I remember feeling like, well, it's never happening. Like it's, you know, there's no way. But I'm kind of drinking the Kool-Aid for round 3. So I don't like, I mean, if Devon were to like destroy Vitaly, don't tell me you're not getting a little bit antsy for the 3rd time, you know?
I just can't anymore, man. I can't.
Literally go. And then it's like this. Like, maybe. I could definitely get excited for that.
I can, man. I'm like all my excitement for like Levan being beaten has been drained out of me throughout the years.
But we're buying the pay-per-view for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
We're buying the pay-per-view. Yeah. We're doing a live commentary. We're fucking bringing our buddies over. We're fucking putting $100 on Devon on arm bet. We're getting 100. You know, cracking open some cold ones, sitting back. And fucking watching every Devon video, watching the press conference, getting a little, you know, voting Devon on the polls. We're getting a little excited, you know? But like at the same time, like we're also, you know, being a little reasonable. Like, of course, Levan's probably just going to win again, right? I always say to Alex Bucket, I'd say 14-0. Like, that's probably going to be the scoreline. But like a little bit, we're getting excited because you can't not. You know,
I think that's a healthy attitude towards those matches. You won't end up being super disappointed probably, and you still get some kind of internal hype from it. So,
I mean, the way I do it is if you bet a bunch of money on Levan, you're happy either way. Like, like
That's true.
I'm picking Levan to beat Hermes. I won't say how much. I'm gonna do a little reveal before the event, but I have a fun idea. I'm gonna record myself watching the match, and regardless of the match result, I will upload the video. Like
Awesome.
I'm pre-planning that it will be uploaded, and I'll share with everyone what my pick is gonna be. But I know for a fact that regardless of the result, my reaction on round one will be pretty hysterical. So I like whether it's shame or it's like, me being like, I fucking told y'all, I'm definitely gonna have a somewhat entertaining reaction. So that'll definitely get out. And even I asked Extra Tan, he said we're all good. So I'll have a tripod pointed at me for the main event. It'll be long.
Awesome. Yeah.
But anyway, like you can't ever get too excited about Levan, I think, if you're fair. But at the same time, like there's a part of you that's always like, what if? Like Jerry, I was like, Jerry's gonna get his shit kicked in, but what if, like and Levan holds on and he runs out of pad and there's a foul? Okay, maybe.
It's the same reason I still want to see Levan versus Michael Todd, and I've been wanting that match for a really long time.
Yeah,
just because of that freak factor. I think you never know. There's an outside chance.
All right. Well, this has been a great live. Thank you, Arm Historian, for coming on. Do you have any final goodbye to say to the people before we call it a show?
Yeah, thanks for going on my live too, Henry.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I had a great.
Yeah, it's not really my live. It's kind of more our live now, huh?
It's fine. You took care of most of the tier list itself, so I do appreciate that a lot. Yeah, I had a really great time. I hope people enjoyed it too. Thanks for watching, and thanks for doing this with me, Henry.
All right. See you around.
Bye-bye.
All right.